Howdy, 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 everybody. Another Thursday night. Hope everybody's doing well. We got us a newcomer here on the panel. Mr. Joey.
Mr. Rock Star. Country Star, I'm sorry.
Well, let's see, we got Greg G and start to finish. They're in now. So, let's see, we got on the panel, we got Jason, Tim, Andy. Ralph's around here somewhere.
Yeah, he went that way.
So, yeah, the background's fine, Joey.
Okay, good.
I take it that's not the green room.
It's backstage.
Yeah.
We have a green room, but it's a little loud over there, so I came back here.
Yeah. Hey, Mark. He just dropped in. Something about his socks are turning red or something.
If he's got Santa Fe logo socks, I'm really going to give him a hard time about it. So.
No, he said he was.
If only they made Conrail socks.
He said, "Go Red Sox."
Oh.
That's the reason why I said his socks. He was talking about his socks being red.
Yep. That makes a bit more sense.
No, Marquis.
Well, yeah, a bit more.
Hey, Michael, how you doing? Well, we'll do, as Big Bill would say, do a little homework. We've got one last show left. That's Who's Big Bill Talking To? That'll be on the 30th of October. He's going to have Barry Rozier and Mike D on. They're going to talk about their experiences first year at doing clinics at Amherst. After that, we'll be into November. We got November the 13th is the fine scale, and November the 21st to be the Joe's train room. So, hey Dave, how you doing? Michael. Well, let's see, we got Ralph working on his layout. Tim's doing something. Andy's doing a little work while on track.
Yeah, I got what I've been working on for the last couple of weeks. I'll show you here in just a second. What I got done. I'm quite pleased with it.
And Joey's over. Where'd you say you're at, Joe?
We're at the El Dorado Casino at Shreveport, Louisiana.
Yeah, he's playing a gig down there.
It was a long walk from Nashville.
Well, I see you got up on time this morning, obviously.
Yes, we had 5:15 bus call in the morning.
There's a 5:15 in the morning too.
Yeah.
Do it today. That's awesome.
I never until I started touring. Although it'd be nice to have a little N scale layout on my drum set. That would be pretty cool. Too big for.
So, I've seen there's a guy. Actually, it's one of the guys that me and Johnny visited once down at his neck of the woods when I come down and visited. Thomas got that HO scale NW layout, and he on his layout has he's got a little room with pool tables and all that, but he's also got this guy's house. The roof comes off, and there's a little layout inside of in the attic of the house. In an HO scale model, the track obviously it's all kind of drawn out on clay or whatever, built up on paper. It's really interesting though.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
what I may do? I may get an oval track and put it on my floor tom and just have a train run around it.
Yeah. A person could actually do that in one of the scales like T scale. That scale that's smaller than Z. It's like 1 to 300, yes. 1 to 220. Especially if you were doing like O scale or use Z scale as a guard railroad on your O scale layout or something.
Yeah, I'd be worried the vibration would just knock everything off the track.
Well, I mean, it's I don't know. I'm not sure how well it would work.
Y'all have a specific topic you're going to talk about tonight, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Ralph. Yeah. Probably about a specific. We had a really good conversation last night, anyway, and it seemed like just a perfect conversation to both have and to start having on this thing, and to get some feedback from people in the chat and maybe some commenters who watch the YouTube video after the fact about some of our instincts about people getting started in the hobby and some of the personalities in the hobby, like those doggone prototype guys or the rivet counter guys, those picky suckers that nobody can tolerate, it seems. My argument was that one, they kind of get a bad rap. Because just because you're a prototyper doesn't mean that you necessarily have. There's plenty of prototype guys that are really nice guys. There's prototype guys that are, less than nice. And what you're saying that prototype guys, if there's a problem with rivet counters, you're calling that wrong. There's a problem with people who are just not nice people. That's irrelevant of what they do. It seems that the guys who tend to motivate toward the prototype and 5 scale and rivet counter guys tend to be kind of persnickety and picky. But we need to attribute the things to the correct people. If somebody's got a bad attitude, it's got a bad attitude, regardless of how they model. But prototyping is most of us navigate more and more toward that. So that was conversation. That was part of the conversation we had last night. And how it affects new people coming into the hobby, and how the guys who are kind of bad attitude guys that also tend to be prototypical or rivet counters tend to push some people away from the hobby, or there's a bad relationship that happens there. Understandably, that's entirely justifiable. But there's plenty of rivet counters that are persnickety guys that are as nice of people that you'd ever want to meet. That encourage you to join the hobby and wouldn't say a bad word about your 4x8 or Bachman Easy track for nothing. So,
Andy, I think the rivet counter thing, you really have to sit back and analyze what, and I'm not talking just about you, I'm talking about everybody. Sit back and analyze what you're doing. When you go and visit someone else's layout, and you look at, let's say, the guy's got a couple of buildings in place, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, I wouldn't do it that way. You're rivet counting.
All right, by the same okay. Of people who badmouth rivet counters, you are. All right.
Yep. And the same thing happens with guys that there's always somebody that thinks they know it all. Those are the rivet counters that are the worst. They're
Mhm.
they're the ones
Agree.
they're the ones that make it bad for everybody.
That's right. And regardless of the fact that they're picky about how they model, that's just it's correlation, not causation. You know, there's plenty of people with bad attitudes that are total freelancers. Plenty of people with bad attitudes that are picky, but you know, there's nothing wrong with being picky. You know, the problem gets into giving somebody a hard time because they choose not to be. It's just a choice.
Yeah,
Okay,
the problem comes with
Go ahead.
when dogging on other people for what they have on the layout.
Yep, I agree. Totally inappropriate, and it's bad for the hobby. It's bad for
Here's where the thing can be corrected. So you find yourself rivet counting because you don't like the way somebody did something, and 9 out of 10 times the guy that did it that way didn't have any guidance on how to do it. He may have watched a couple of videos and so on. He didn't have personal help. So here you are cutting him down for what he's done instead of praising what he's done and maybe helping him along the way, saying, maybe if you're interested, I can help you do this, or I can help you do that because I've done it before.
corrective, or what do they call that? It's positive criticism, or
Yep.
Right.
I've seen you do that a bunch of times to people. Good stuff.
It's
And to me, it's
you know,
great.
for me too.
That's right. Yeah, and I can't tell you, he changed. You know, and I'm thinking about stuff, but Ralph entirely changed my perspective on how to weather and such, and he done so in a way that, I mean, it's criticism. It's just good criticism. It's valuable.
Right. Well, after every show, you know, the musicians and I will sit and go, "That was pretty good, but what if you did it this way instead, or try it this way, or don't hit something that hard, just do it lightly," or you know, that's constructive criticism. It has nothing to do with shaming on somebody.
Yep.
And the same thing goes with model railroading. It's like, that's a great job. You know, I will never put anybody down because you know what? I'm not God's gift to model railroading. I know I'm not. And you know, I'm always learning. And it's just like anything in this world. Somebody has to start somewhere, and eventually you gain the experience and the knowledge, and then you put it to the talent, and you put experiences to the model you're working on, and eventually it gets bigger and it gets better.
Well, and 2 points on that. One is how we got started. I'll come back to that in just a second. My comment about this, about how much you can know, is the truth is, we talk about the biggest value in model railroading to people getting into the hobby, to young people especially getting into the hobby, which is largely what kind of this conversation was kind of focused on last night. Impact is, look what things this hobby brings you. You know, you develop woodworking and carpentry skills, electronics. You know, I didn't have any background in that. My family wasn't, technical or computer people, you know, at all. But wiring a layout for DC at a young age, a single digit age, interested me in electronics, and I learned about it. And having to, and the reverse loop on a Weiss stuck to me at 9 years old, and figuring out how to deal with a reverse loop and how much interest that was, and how much gratification there was in solving that as a young fella. And now I went to school to become an electrical engineer, and now an IT guy. So I've spent my entire professional life because of a double throw switch. That's how the interest got started. So that's electronics to art to scenery to weather to prototype history. You know, there's mechanical engineering. There's so many things in the hobby. So much from civil engineering to electronics to artwork that are that all the different skills. It is absolutely, or it is my opinion, an expert model railroader. That's an absolute impossibility. Right. You could be expert at weathering. You could be an expert at DCC or layout electronics. You could be an expert at some subsection of it, or you could be quite good at all of it as a jack of all trades. But as a computer guy, I'm not an expert at anything. I have a decent skill set across a wide range of things. But if you're an expert, if you're a database guy or an Exchange email server guy, or a server guy, whatever, if you're an expert at something, you can't be a jack of all trades. You can't get that much. You can't shove that much in your head. So if you're an expert at one thing, you're going to need help in other areas. So you have to take criticism. You just
JT1 agrees with. He said, I feel that rivet counters are toxic to the hobby, and I'm talking about the ones that criticize people's ability of modeling.
And that's what we had come to the discussion about last night. And what I'm saying is, and Ralph to some degree saying a similar thing, is it is not rivet counters that are toxic to the hobby. It's bad attitudes. You could have somebody that was a total freelancer that models, easy track, whatever he wants to runs, and has a bad attitude. He's toxic to the hobby in the same way. The fact that somebody is a quote-unquote rivet counter or is a fine-scale, prototypical or prototype accuracy guy like myself has nothing to do with whether he's good or bad for the hobby. It's just bad attitudes are good for the hobby. That's all.
The worst guys are the ones that, and you find it not only in model railroading, you find it in sports as well. The armchair critics.
Yep.
Because they've watched all the videos and they watch so-and-so do this and they watch so-and-so do that, they consider themselves now an expert. But they haven't built a single thing.
Yeah. Honestly,
the whole of the
if you're not a layout builder, I don't listen to most people's opinions about layout things. If you just build rolling stock and you weather rolling stock or something, I'll listen to you on that subject. But if you are not a layout builder, I will listen to your opinions, but I will not rate them very highly unless you're a layout builder, because you can watch all the videos in the world. There are things that are learned only in the doing. That's it. I don't care what you learn, how much you learn about it, how much you read about it, how much you talk to other people about it. There are lessons that you will learn. You can talk for 20 years to everybody on here and on the forums and read and buy every video and watch every video available about something about building a layout. You will still learn something 20 years later when you finally go build it. That's why I tell other people, go on.
Absolutely.
Just get
the way I see it, just get your feet dirty. Get your feet dirty and just do it. My Hudson New England Railroad is my first time ever doing bench work on my own. It's the first time ever laying HO track on my own. And, it's a whole learning experience. Wiring's the same way. I watched dozens of videos, read so many books, had people come over and help me. You're not going to get it right the first time. And if you do, there's always more that you want to improve on. And there's nothing wrong with that. That just goes for anything in life you do.
Yep. And here's the proof. If you're building a layout and you're trying to solve the host of problems that you need answers to as you're building that layout, prove to me that you can find some documentation or video or whatever, some information about every problem you have to solve while you build it. If you can, I'll change my opinion. But right now, as much as I'm building on this layout, yes, some of it is kind of unique, different, but it's all because as much research as I have, I've got Trademasters, Model Railroad Academy, had MR for the vast majority of my life, Model Railroad Hobby Street, all that stuff, talk to you guys. All the sources of information I have in these days as an internet savvy and very busy internet age modeler, there are still things that I just had to try 2 or 3 times until I figured them out. There are things that the answers are not out there for. The doing is the only way to figure out some things.
Yeah, JT1 says that the thing he loves about the hobby is you learn from all your mistakes.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Tell you right now, I played the tambourine part wrong on one of the songs, but you sit there, you laugh it off, and you go, tomorrow night, let's do it correctly.
And I'll tell you what, and if it's complicated, whatever it is, a model railroading is complicated. It's not too complicated, and it can be more or less complicated depending on what your ambition and goal is. However, anything complicated in life, you could start at 5 years old playing piano, being a musician. And if you don't learn something in your 90th year of playing piano, you stopped paying attention at some point. You can learn, I don't care how good you are. Einstein was learning and was writing in his little notebook on his deathbed shortly before he passed. There are things, don't get me wrong, model railroading is not exactly astrophysics, okay? But it's complicated.
You never know.
Complicated. There's a lot to think about, relearn. The hobby is changing. New techniques are coming out all the time in every aspect, from all the modern electronics to You know, you'd think some of it like scenery or something snapped there years ago. Not at all. But spatting grass has only been going for 10 or 12 years in this country, and all these new grass mats, and you know, there's new stuff all the time. It isn't slowing down. So you're going to have to figure things out yourself. You're going to have to experiment, and you need to be able to listen to what. So, and part of the conversation, this conversation actually started with us talking about a few people that were talking about they do it their way. However, you know, they're just going to do it their way at all. And I think I was misinterpreting what that actually meant. My instinct about that was that they weren't willing to listen to anybody else give them information or insight about it. And that was not the correct way to interpret that. Heck, we all do it our way. If that's true, I still ultimately make my own decision. You can tell me to do it however you want to, but ultimately I'm going to think that I come to my own decision, maybe because I'm hard-headed, but whatever. And I think you should. I think every person should come to their own decision one way or the other. Listen to everybody's opinions, come up with it on your own. If you're not willing to take any information, you can still become a great model railroader. But everything you do, you have to do it the hard way. You have to experiment a lot, and you have to trial and error it, and you have to do everything 4 or 5 times until you find the right way, and occasionally luck out and get it right the first time. But if you'll listen to people, you get so much information that you can shoot yourself.
You know, and for me, what I realized was that I like scenery for like track work, wire directly. Okay, that's something that has to. There's a certain way to do it. Has to be done. But to me, you know, the one thing you can get away with definitely is weathering, your operations, and your scenery work. Scenery. This world is nothing's perfect in this world. So the way you do scenery, there's no right or wrong way to do it. You know, and for me, you know, with my touch of the brush business, you know, there's a lot of times where I look at a box car and I go, man, I don't like this. I'll redo it. You know, no problem. You know, it's not the end of the world. Just dive into it and do it, and make sure, you know, it's what you like. You like it. If it's going based on the prototype, make sure you go based on the pictures. There's, you know, if you're not sure how to do make a creek or do a mountain pass or a rock cut, look at photos. There's a million things you can do to look, you know, to help you along the way, and don't be afraid to ask questions. I mean, there's times. I mean, even in this group, I was scared to death to be like, you know, I'm not. You guys are phenomenal at what you do. You know, I'm looking at myself like, I just started, you know, getting back into HO again. So, but, you know, I've been really appreciate you guys bringing me in. And, you know, it's an honor to really talk to you guys, you know. And it's really awesome to have a great community like we are, and to share our thoughts and ideas, you know. And that's what it's all about, in my opinion.
Oh man, we're super happy to have you in the group. But I promise, anybody out there that goes and watches videos on YouTube, if you come across this video and you're like, you know, I kind of want to play with trades, and you go buy a box trade set, the first experience you've ever had is just a box trade set with a loop of track, and you come in and start hanging out with as soon as you buy that loop of track. You will put the labor in. I promise you will be teaching somebody something in a relatively short order of time. You can't help but develop skills that you'll share with other people. That's why, you know, the effort we put into sharing with other people is also selfish. I'm going to want back. You know, I want back too.
All right, break.
break.
Yeah. Ralph, JT1's, let me get back up here. He said, your brickwork looks really good. Is that brick or stonework?
It's fieldstone type of thing. I can't really, without killing myself with wires, I can't really take a piece and show you or make it closer. But it's plaster that I have a mold of, and it's roughly about that length and about that high. If you can see what I'm pointing at, it's about 3 inches by 6 or 6.5 or 7. And I cut the pieces to fit. Some of the times they don't go together well, so that's what I'm picking at now with this tool. I'm trying to make the lines follow.
That was a Sterling, right?
Hey, Ralph.
Yeah.
Not to interrupt, but I just want to thank you guys for coming. I have to go back to work and perform the next set. Thank you guys for bringing me on here. There's a lot of fun. I hope to do it again soon, and maybe I'll actually doing something model railroadish compared to drumming. So, but thank you guys so much. I will talk to you guys soon.
All right.
Okay,
Appreciate you coming in, Joe.
See you, Joey.
Absolutely. Anytime, guys. Take care, everybody.
And that's a Sterling mold, right? Well,
Yes, it is. Sterling models.
I love some of the best.
You can't see that rock work.
Actually, I'll tell you what. I could just open up a screen share and show the mold, but that doesn't show the results. You have it on your Facebook page?
From my tablet, I'm not going to be able to get to it.
No, but I can. I can go to your Facebook page and share it for you.
I don't think I do.
Okay.
I showed it in one of the videos that we did on weathering. I showed the rock or the face, the stonework, and how I weather it and so on, and the rocks as well. Basically, it's all molds. Like there's rock right here that I've used. I made molds from. My wife wanted a rock garden in the back, so I ordered 2.5 ton of rock. And as I'm placing the rocks in the rock garden, I'm thinking to myself, wow, this would make a great face for the model railroad, like the face of a mountain or a cliff or something like that. So I started making molds of them. So yeah. I've done that throughout my layout is all except for the odd mold from Sterling or from Woodland Scenics. Everything else is from my backyard.
Awesome.
And I use plaster of Paris as opposed to what's the other one?
Hydrocal.
Hydrocal, right. I don't know why I keep forgetting that. Maybe because I don't like it.
You don't like hydrocal? Just for rock, or do you like it for other materials? You just don't like it for rock work because it's hard to carve, I suppose?
Well, for what I do, like there, if I'm going to cut something, I have this blade on a handle.
Yeah.
This is a blade that goes in my saber saw, and that's how I cut it.
Yeah, it's hard to cut. Hydrocal is really hard to cut.
Well, plaster of Paris is easier to cut.
Absolutely. And
it's easier to put together and sand it and scrape it to make it fit perfectly.
I can't disagree with that at all. I tend to like hydrocal, but it's partly because of the lightweight, because of how strong it is, but not necessarily for rock work, like all the stone work and stuff. Man, hydrocal. Actually, I like that dental plaster. Gosh,
that's the worst one to work with because it is so hard.
But like those bridge abutments I got, it captured detail that it held the detail so spectacular. A little bit of a texture, bumpiness on those 2 foot by 3 foot or 3 foot by 4 foot stones. They built those abutments out of that.
You're gonna make me move this camera now, aren't you? The iPad.
Probably eventually. You're not gonna be able to help yourself.
I can't see what I'm showing you. So can you see that rock right there with the locomotive?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, that is plaster of Paris, and it's got as much detail in it as anything else you can pour or use. Hydrocal, dental hydrocal, whatever you want. And the same with this stuff here. When I do this, it just works out beautifully as far as I'm concerned, and it's easier to work with.
I don't disagree with that for rock work, much like what you are working with there, big rock work. Like the dental plaster for the bridge abutment that have that stone texture on them I have. Man, I haven't seen it. They're beautiful. And they just have so much detail in the rock face that, it's not cliffside, it's a bridge abutment. And it's little bitty detail, little bitty close up.
All right, here you go. S&J Railroad. The local jail and my railroad have a contract for the trustees to come out once a week and clean up my layout. We need to tell that to Bill, Big Bill.
Wow. How big is your layout?
He's got a smiley face at the end of it.
Okay.
With a big grin on it.
Well, everybody'd like to have some help. If you're going to build a big railroad, even if you're not going to build a big railroad, dude, I thought this, what I'm building is small. I spent years thinking it wasn't worth the effort to even build because couldn't build it bigger. Now, as I'm building it, I'm realizing, doggone it, this is a pretty big undertaking.
Yeah. JT1. Let's see. Yeah. This kind of goes back a little bit. That's the one thing I don't see on people's layouts that I've seen is there is no trash near the tracks or near their buildings. That's stuff I see that's the stuff I see in the real world.
Go look at Gino.
We've talked about that before on here. Is a lot of people don't put the dunnage and trash along the side of the rails or along the buildings that does accumulate.
Go look at Gino.
I haven't got there yet.
I've gave Gino a lot of credit. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not what I've gave Gino a lot of credit for the amount of stuff that he does. Humans are just dirty creatures. Everywhere there's junk everywhere. So if you want to make something look realistic, paper basically I don't care what era it is. There's dirt and papers in the middle of the track and newspapers. In the Kathy Millett also, she did the videos of her town or street work, and she put all that kind of crap in the gutters of the street. And as far as I'm concerned, she made it.
See, that's the thing. A lot of guys go for too perfect. And we really need to put some imperfection in because nature is not perfect, like we said.
By no means.
Well, it's like perfectly imperfect. So you need to, it needs to be what it needs to be. It needs to be what the real world is. Now that doesn't mean sloppy. It needs to be on purpose. It needs to be on purpose. It needs to be what it needs to be. But that's
just to give you an idea, Andy. Dave from Dave's
Decals. Yeah.
Dave's Decals. He actually has newspapers and so on scaled down.
Yep, I got some of them. I'm going to use those as well. And actually, I printed some myself, and I went in trouble getting some from the appropriate era. And then I realized, even under a magnifying glass, the printer isn't high enough fidelity that you can tell what it is. So it was stupid to even look for the prototype, for the right era. But that's ridiculous. But yeah, you need crap, and it shouldn't be. Sloppy's the wrong word. You shouldn't just go throw stuff at it. But that's the key. That's why pictures are such a key. I don't care what you're doing, whether the pictures, I don't praise the pictures. Everything I do, human memory is fallible.
Well, going back to what we were saying before, as far as rivet counting and stuff, as far as the beginner goes, you're better off to actually make the mistakes.
Some of them.
And then, all of them.
Maybe not the most expensive.
A lot of us are, we learn by show me.
We all do.
And we make our mistakes and we learn from them. So with somebody's guidance, like once you realize you've made a mistake, you can go search the help.
While y'all are searching, got a question in here from start to finish. Does anyone know where to get good 1970s telephone booths?
Yeah, they've gone out of business. Vector Art.
Yeah, that's right. Man, I love them. Shapeways. Shapeways your best bet.
Yep.
So what really kind of started this conversation last night, the very deepest origins of what we were talking about was, I was saying that one of the worst things that you could do when you first get started in my opinion, and the guys were disagreeing, argues a lot with, were disagreeing with me about this. I said one of the worst things a person could do getting started in the hobby is to buy these old cheap cars and rolling stock and crappy track and stuff. And don't get me wrong, don't go buy the best either. Don't go waste a whole lot of money until you know what you're interested in or that you're even interested in the hobby. But when I went to the hobby shop, I can't tell you the number of people who came in and they had bought a bunch of junk basically, and it wouldn't run, and it kept derailing, and they got frustrated. They got out of the hobby. I can't tell you how many people have probably left the hobby just because the quality of what they got, it wouldn't run. So, and that doesn't mean expensive. AccuRail is good stuff. Go buy you an AccuRail, and you know.
AccuRail is the new Blue Book.
Absolutely, I love that. I've heard you say that before, and I love that analog. And
my theory on the cheap stuff is, you go out and grab as much as you can, experiment on it.
For weather,
learn for this is my theory for weather. Experiment on it. If you don't like it, you didn't lose much. Maybe you paid $1 for a car, $2 for a car. So what?
Right.
There's two sides to it. So you change your theory on the other side, and you learn from your mistakes. Once you start to develop a skill, you get better at it. The better you get at it, the more confidence you build. The more confidence you build, the more you're willing to try anything. And then it becomes, I'm going to go out and buy the expensive cars and so on. And because you've got the confidence in doing what you were doing on the cheap stuff, you don't have a problem doing it on the expensive stuff.
You're not afraid.
When I first started doing this stuff, I bought myself a $350 Broadway Limited Mikado. And I thought to myself, there is no way that I'm going to dirty this thing and possibly ruin it. So I played around. That Broadway Limited still hasn't been touched yet, but I know exactly how to do it because I've played around and I've built enough confidence. I can do it anytime I want.
Plus, you could take some of those early cars, cheap cars, and have you a deserted track off to the side. Put those on there for looks.
Well, yeah. The other thing, Johnny, is if you really want to get good at or practice scratch building or what do they call it? Kit bashing. You can chisel off the ladders, and you can put new ladders on. You can buy the ladders separately. You can put stanchions on locomotives. Change the wheel sets on the cars from the cheap plastic and the horn hook couplers to KDs or something similar. The knuckle coupler. Right? You just change it out, and you start adding these details, and those cheap cars now can be sitting right beside an expensive car, properly detailed and weathered, and you won't be able to tell the difference unless you really look hard. So the average guy that comes into your layout and looks at the stuff, he's not going to know which car is the bad car or the good car. He's gonna see everything because it's human nature. You look at things and you sort of glaze over some things. It just happens. But to get better at something it takes practice.
Yep.
Like I was saying, that is, I don't care what plastic your car is built out of. I just care what parts are on it for me. It does have separate grabs, and that not everybody has to care about all that stuff. But my argument or disagreement with that concept, with part of the concept for some people, if they go buy these lifelike cars or Tyco cars, by the time you buy trucks, you get rid of the Tyco couplers and draft boxes and wheels, all that other stuff. You spend as much money as buying an AccuRail car would have bought you. Now, if you've got one that you really love or that you've done a great detail work on, buy an AccuRail car that's a 40-foot box or whatever. Take the Tyco box and put the one on. If you put that, it's good to experiment with weathering. I agree wholeheartedly. But in most cases, you can buy an AccuRail cheaper than you can buy trucks, wheels, couplers, and jack boxes. to retrofit one of these others. But if you're trying to use if you're trying to use a Tyco, it's going to derail. Stop. Buy stock. Try to back a Tyco car into a siding to drop it when you're switching.
All right, I got a question here from Michael. Any advice on making birch trees? I'm doing fall scenery this weekend.
Sure. It depends on what technique you want to use. If you're going to use wire, or if you're going to use a natural armament, find a natural armament that works for you. I like sagebrush. But the key to making birch is a wash. Just like weathering freight cars. Use a white wash. I use oil to make my washes for the natural materials for the bark, for like the birch trees. But I want to lighten the color up because the oil seems to, or the mineral spirits in the oil seems to permeate or soak in at a rate better than the acrylic does. But that's my opinion. Find you a decent armature of some kind. Put a wash on it, probably, depending on what your material is. But if it's natural, use a wash. I prefer oil, but whatever, a wash. Get your color right. I use super tree material on the top of it, but you can also use static grass. And then paint the whole thing, wash it, paint static grass, and then dust it with ground foam if you prefer, or I like the leaf flake. Also, you can get that pull cord material that's like I don't know what they call it, but it's got leaf on it, and it's glued to like a polyfiber. And you can, Acidic Express sells it, you peel it apart and then stretch it over, just like the polyfiber, stretch it over whatever armature you're using. It already has the leaf in it, and they have one for birch that matches the birch colors correctly, and they have a spring and a summer and a couple fall colors, or late fall and early fall color of birch trees. Good stuff.
Yeah, but that's all fine and dandy. If you don't study what the tree looks like, you're going to make a mess. Yeah,
that's a picture. I don't care what you're doing in this hobby. When I was building growth, I was looking at pictures of growth. When I'm building structures, I've got pictures of growth. When I was building a gas station, a 1940 Conoco gas station, I've got a whole bunch of pictures of Conoco gas stations. And while I do this stuff on the computer, I was working on that gas station for a few weeks. I printed them out, and I had 4 or 5 pictures above me there that I was working on. And when I'm in the kink of modeling trees, I've got a whole stack of photos back there, and I'll take and pin them up when I'm working on trees. And I've been making trees for several years, but just your memory is not good. You need an immediate reference all the time when that's what you're working on, whatever that is.
Sagebrush works well for oak trees, maple trees, elm trees. Yeah. But I don't think it's suitable enough for a birch tree. Birch tree has a lot of straight stalk.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Sagebrush is all sort of gnarly, it's great, but I don't think it makes a good birch tree.
So
that's my opinion. Here I am, Rivet County. Here I am. I think
juniper is the best armature for a birch tree that I've seen so far.
Yeah, Michael said good advice. Thanks, guys.
So, Jason, what have you been up to?
Oh, been doing a little bit of odds and end kit bashing.
Where you been bashing?
Well, I'm caboose.
Can we rivet count? Can we rivet count it?
No.
What?
No.
What's the prototype, and what'd you start with? What's your base?
The base is a bay window pattern, and I am
closing up some windows.
Closing up some windows, and then I'm gonna smooth it all out, and then I'm gonna paint it, or actually prime it first, and then paint it to the color I'm wanting, and then I'm gonna put. This is gonna be a Operation Lifesaver caboose.
All right, okay.
Are you using squadron putty or Tester's putty or what?
I am using pieces of a Purcell sign.
Yeah.
Fill it in, and then I'm using vinyl spackle.
Really?
Interesting.
Can I stick to the plastic? Okay. How about that?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. I use spackle for scenery a lot. Never thought about putting any on plastic. I'll give it a try.
I've never heard of vinyl spackle. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, S&J Railroad just popped up here that I had a nice in-scale layout, 200 plus square feet, but my son decided he needed to move back home a few months ago. I had to disassemble, but I just made room in my office, but it's a lot smaller, only 108 square foot room. And Marty just said, "Good day, y'all." S&J, you should have done like I did. I didn't give my son a chance to come back. We talked him into building buying a house, and I moved in with him.
It's funny.
I was going to say, couldn't he have lived under the railroad? I mean, put him a bed on the floor under the layout.
Yeah, right. He's not home all the time.
That's what I started doing here. This was the master bedroom, and it didn't take long before the wife said there's got to be a better idea than sleeping under the. It didn't fly very good in my case, but that's my wife, so a little different.
Yeah.
The thoughts of that train falling on her head didn't sound so good, huh?
No, she wasn't like it. That didn't go very far at all. So, but but the trains are still in here. The bed just moved out. That meant I got a peninsula, so I still consider it a win.
So the room I'm in used to be my son's bedroom, and then he went to school to become an audio engineer. We turned it into a sound studio, and then the job that he had took him to Australia, so that he moved out. And then when he came back 2.5, 3 months later, I had already had the bench work up on the walls. He said, "I guess there's no chance of getting my room back, eh?" And I said, "No, doesn't work that way. We have your room upstairs, one of the bedrooms upstairs. This is now my room."
Yep.
My house, my room, my rules.
Exactly.
More specifically, my railroad.
That's right. That's the important descriptor. That's right. And a bed needs a place, whether it's the garage or the shop or the railroad room, depending on the hobby. Bed needs a place.
Well, my wife refers to this as my man cave.
Oh, I hate that term.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do.
Huh.
It helps that I'm in an attic, so it is kind of like a cave up here. So.
Well, yeah, in your case, I guess it is.
My wife refers to this angrily as, "You took the master bedroom."
Yeah.
Hey, Ralph, Glenn said, yeah, he could have pitched a tent in the backyard, LOL.
Yeah, right. For the sun. Exactly. You had your chance. You had your chance here, and you moved out once.
Whatever it takes to keep the railroad. That's right.
Yeah, S&J went, "Yeah, I tried that." He pulled a love card on me. He offered to pay half the mortgage again.
Oh, okay. That changed everything there.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
a totally different thing, man. You start talking finances, that's a financial decision, not a real estate decision. Not a problem.
That's right. And
That
then it's not an issue of ownership.
That's right.
Well, it is sort of. It's a partnership.
Partnership. That's a good way to say that. Yeah, so now the 100 square foot that you've got for your railroad, somebody else is paying for half of that 100 square feet. So, good stuff.
Yeah.
And it's in scale. I mean, and if you build your layout Toba style or movable, however you decide to do that in sections, not portable per se, but if you'll build it to where you can move it, inevitably, when you're stuck with the full mortgage again in the future, pay it back to the 200 square foot room. You're not committed.
Yeah, SJ Railroad said exactly. Well, we got about 10 minutes left there if y'all want to kind of wind up your discussion on getting into the hobby.
I mean, my main thing is don't dog on anybody for buying anything that's not, you know, a high brand item. Especially if they're just starting out. Now, when they get into the hobby and they start making complaints, then you can start referring them over to the higher quality items, you know, upgrading their wheels. I mean, take me for almost a perfect example. Last year, you know, I was still running DC, cheap generic engines. I've still got several generic Tyco cars that I've upgraded and done some repairs to. But since then, I've upgraded DCC. I've upgraded several of my locomotives. I put DCC decoders in them because I wanted something that would run a little bit better, smoother operations. I bought a Scale Trains Tier 4 Gevo. You know, I'm starting to buy the better quality stuff now that I'm getting a better quality layout built. So if somebody's just running their trains in their living room for, you know, the heck of it, and just to have some trains running, don't dog them for that. At least they're trying to get in the hobby. They're helping keep the hobby alive.
That's right.
We need all types. We need the rivet counters because they're the ones that constantly push the innovation and push the detail. But we also need the beginners and the guys buying the low quality, you know, train line and lifelike locomotives. You know, because they're the ones that are actually keeping the stuff alive totally. They're the ones that are, you know, keeping the manufacturers in business because that's where probably 90% of their sales go is the cheaper locomotives and cheaper quality stuff.
Well, we build so much stuff. They have, you know, a lot of the early guys, you know, kind of build their railroads out of their wallets instead of, you know, out of a local hardware store or out of their scrap beating stuff. You know, I'm sure the beginners buy more than a lot of us. And those beginners cease to be beginners eventually. And then you get something back out of them as they're teaching you. Like I said, you know, if somebody comes in here, it's just a matter of time before they're teaching us. Anybody I help that's just getting in the hobby will be teaching me something. You know, at least a lot of them will be teaching me something for long. So it's a, you know, share life. They'll get back.
And it's like you just said, it's a matter of time before they're doing the same thing we're all doing.
Yeah, and it just depends on their natural attitude and how much time they spend. I mean, look, you know, Lloyd started a couple of years ago, man, and I've asked him stuff all the time, man. They got to become the scratch, you know, we're the scratch coaching guys. So, guys getting into the hobby, you know, help them get past the things they're in trouble with, and in the areas personalities that they go and excel at, then they can, you know, they return the favor, teach you something back. So that's why what makes the hobby so great is the sharing, it's community. But if you are not friendly to people who don't have all the answers, you're not very community oriented.
We need to be accepting of everybody who wants to be in the hobby because it's a hard hobby to get into because you either love it or you don't. Basically.
Yeah.
And if you got somebody that's discouraging you just because you're running lifelike engines on a 4x8 layout, you're going to start to hate the hobby.
Well, that's the kind of people you have to get out of your life. Those are the guys. Those are the guys that hurt everybody.
That's right. People with just a bad attitudes about stuff. The only thing and that's kind of that, you know, the conversation last night when I started that saying, I just don't think it's good for beginners to get these cars that are so awful that they don't run very good because they end up being unhappy. But that doesn't mean they have to be top of the line. they just need to run okay. If every time he goes around the loop on your plywood, it derails and falls over, how long before you box that stuff up? I mean, so the balance is not Tyco or brass. You know, it's not a one way or the other. Your trades need to not derail. That's the only standard I've seen.
Well, I mean, and don't be afraid to ask for help if you have trains like that, and ask why they're derailed.
That's right.
You know, and then don't be a stickler and, you know, well, you need to just buy better quality. No, you need to walk them through why, how, to improve what they have, and then let them look at the value of whether it's cheaper for them to go ahead and improve what they already have or buy the next step up.
That's right, because you can fix it. My only disagreement is whether it's worth it or not, but that's up to somebody else to decide whether it's worth it. But you need, you know, metal wheel sets and KD couplers at enough weight, and an NMRA gauge to make sure it's engaged. If you do those things, I don't care how it works, or how old it is, how cheap it was, how crappy or how high quality. If you buy a $300 brass caboose, or you buy a $1.50 Tyco caboose and a strap bed, you can make the brass caboose to run off of the Tyco caboose. The wheels are engaged, you've got good metal wheel sets, KD couplers set correctly at enough weight, and everything's engaged. That's what matters, not how much it cost, not what brand it was, the specifications of it. But people don't.
I can't push an NMRA gauge more. I mean, it's $12. It's cheap.
Yep, it's a bust, absolute bust.
And it will help out so many people to have one. And it does so much just for the $12. I mean, you can check your coupler heights with it. You check your track gauge. You check your wheel gauge. You check your flange height. You check your clearances on all sides.
Exactly.
It's not just a good investment. If you don't have an NMRA gauge, I don't know what you're doing. I don't understand how you can do the hobby without it. There are some things that are just that's one of the very few. You can do all kinds of different things in the hobby where there are multiple right choices of how to do it. You know, I won't argue in favor of even having DCC. You want DC? Do DC. That's fine. Do whatever you want to do with the hobby. But having an NMRA gauge, that is the only singular must I think I can, off the top of my head, it's the only single thing that you just have to have. You just have to have that gauge.
So that means I've got to restart my entire layout because I don't have one.
How do you not have an NMRA gauge?
No, I don't have any.
Hey Ron, how you doing? From down under, and Big Bill just dropped in. He said my budget is below the poverty line. While we got you here, Big Bill, I don't forgot who said it. It was on up, I think. But anyway, yeah, S&J Railroad. He popped in. Found out how to clean your railroad. He said that he's got a contract with the local jail, and they send the trustees over, and they clean the railroad for him. Might be something you want to look into.
Maybe. So how do you get around that, Lloyd? How are you checking wheel widths and gauge and all that stuff? How are you keeping things from derailing?
I don't know. They don't derail.
So all of the wheel sets on all your cars are engaged by luck?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I bought them and I expect them to be engaged.
That's a bad expectation.
Yeah,
I bought 35 cars so far, and I've had 4 wheel sets out of gauge. So 35 times 4, 120, 140 wheel sets. I've had 4 out of 140 already. And these are $40 pieces of rolling stock.
Yeah, Benny.
When I get to that point, I'll see. But for now, it's like I said, it's going to be 3 years in October. I haven't had any derailments when I've been running my trains around. So, I mean, it's a good tool. But to say that it's a must, that's what really bugs me in this hobby, is that a lot of people say this is how you got to do it. Well, I disagree. It might be your way of doing it, but it doesn't mean it is the best way.
Okay, let me rephrase my statement then, so that we get around that. I understand what you're saying. I will agree. No matter what anybody says, there is no right. There's no single right way to do things. There are wrong ways to do things, though. These people who say there's no right and no wrong way to do things, that's just wrong. There are plenty of wrong ways to do all kinds of things. Plenty of wrong ways to do it. You know, if you use food products on your layout as scenery, that's just a wrong way to do stuff. When the bugs take over, that's wrong. But there's a lot of right ways. So here's my challenge to anybody. If you're running a layout with wheel sets out of gauge, that is a wrong way to run your layout. I will stand by that statement. Whether you use an NMRA gauge to do that or not. But if your wheel sets are not engaged, that's wrong. You are going to end up unhappy.
All right, I've got a statement. I got a statement here for Lloyd from Marty down under. He said, "Hey Lloyd, lunch today is roast beef on a roll, and it has been checked with an NMRA gauge."
There you
go. Big Bill said that he had some parolees over from Rikers Island. He loaned them his car to get lunch. That was last Saturday.
Ain't been back yet.
Yeah. And also, hey, Vinny and Eric and John, I did see y'all, but it's kind of hard to jump in sometimes. Yeah, Mr. Vinny, hadn't seen you in a while. I hear you've been doing pretty good.
All right. So do you guys disagree about that gauge argument? How could it?
Lloyd does. Lloyd does. Andy Lloyd does.
Okay. Sorry.
What
so hang on a second.
What did you say, Ralph?
You disagree with his statement about a must to have the NMRA gauge. So let me qualify that. Somebody who starts out in the hobby doesn't necessarily know about it, and they'll continue on until somebody points it out, or until they find they're having derailments and they can't figure out why, until somebody points it out.
Okay, but my point in all that is just to correct what people say. When you say that if you're going to have a model railroad and you need an NMRA gauge, is wrong. If somebody wants to buy a train set from Walmart, he doesn't need an NMRA gauge. If somebody wants to build a 4x8 railroad and he wants to do it his way, he doesn't need an NMRA gauge. But if you're going to be building a layout with operations and lots of trains, yes, then you will need one.
No,
it's just that when people say you must have this, you must have that, you got to do it this way, you cannot use that, that's wrong.
Yeah.
So
it's not a direct.
When you built your layout, did you build it with just your bare hands?
No. I can't hear you, Ralph.
Did you build your layout with just your bare hands?
What?
No. You built your layout with hammers, with screwdrivers, with drills, and those are a must.
Well, of course, if you're going to put a nail, it's pretty hard to bang your head on it. I mean.
Okay, so if you're going to run a railroad, you have to make sure that the track is engaged, that the wheels fit the track properly.
Yep.
And these are some of the things that the beginner doesn't know.
That's right.
So along the road, you will need NMRA gauge. I don't care what size layout it is. Even if it's a 4x8, eventually you're going to run into a problem, and you're not going to know how to solve it because you don't have an NMRA gauge, or you don't even know about it.
I agree. Actually, and I'll say I agree with you, Lloyd. People say there's only this way to do it or that way to do it. I agree with you 100%.
Those are the rivet counters.
That's right, and I totally agree with you that that's wrong. The only singular exception to that rule is that you must have an NMRA gauge. Every other choice, there are multiple choices and multiple that can be equally right depending. There is no other thing to do. The NMRA gauge is the only singular must in our hobby. Here's the reason. Our track is built to NMRA to an NMRA RP spec. Our wheels are NMRA RP spec or recommended practice 25. Everything is built to an NMRA spec. How do you know if that's right if you don't have the gauge that measures that? You're building a railroad using HO scale stuff that is specified by the NMRA, yet you don't have the measuring stick to use it. So if you're building your layout in imperial measurement and you don't have a measuring tape that is the imperial, how do you know that that 2x4 was 8 feet long?
Andy, I can remember.
I don't think that's a good example because when you're building.
Hang on, Lloyd. I can remember about a year ago, you came on and you asked, what are the clearances for this and this? And we said to get an NMRA gauge because it's on there.
Yeah.
The clearances for your loading docks, for your platforms. Huh? Yeah, you did.
No, the only clearance I asked was for my tunnel.
Okay.
NMRA gauge.
Yep. So
measuring tape.
NMRA gauge.
That's
rivet counters. Measuring tape is okay.
Okay. Can you take a measuring tape and determine if your wheel sets are engaged? No. Can you take a measuring tape?
I wouldn't take a measuring tape for that. No, the whole point here is that when you're talking about rivet counters, I mean, there's people here in our group that I would consider rivet counters because it has to be done certain ways. And
no, that is not being a rivet counter. That is being a butthole. That is totally different.
Okay, so there's two buttholes here.
I mean, that has nothing to do with it. Having a bad attitude has nothing to do with it. I'm specific. That's true. But I'll never tell you there's only one way to do something. There's 100 ways to do it. And there's all kinds of right and all kinds of wrong ways. There's a whole wide range of that. The NMRA gauge is the only single thing that I don't know how you could do without. When I used to work at the hobby shop, it's the only single thing that I always see every new model railroader home with. The only single thing.
All right, let me
when I get all my stuff running, I'll probably need one at that point because I've got plenty of cars and I know that there's a lot of wheels I have to change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably need one, but I mean, not right now.
All right, well, here you go. Here you go. Glass in Japan said, I can't even find the gauge for sale here in Japan. I don't have a layout yet, but been using calipers where necessary. Plus, for a 12mm gauge track, a USB plug works perfectly as a track gauge.
That's right. USB gauges are USB. A USB plug has a pretty wide range compared to your locomotive and your turnouts will not have as much tolerance as a USB plug, for example. Now you can use calipers. I got no argument with using calipers because I'm a P87 guy. I use a set of calipers too. I think Mike and stuff is great. That's great, but that's not for your everyday guy. If you are quite good with those types of tools, you don't need an NMRA gauge. I'm just saying for the beginners that are out there, for the guys getting into the hobby too, that's the only single thing that I think is it would be in everybody's interest to have it.
All right, Dave Piper's put a comment up here, and he's going, is the G Plus shutdown next year going to affect anything with YTMB or the Hangouts? The comment there from me is, as far as Hangouts go, we've kind of gotten away from Hangouts and gone to what we call live chats because we're using standalone software. We don't rely on G Plus anymore. What we're using now seems to work a whole lot better, a lot more reliable, better audio, better video. And as far as YTMB on G Plus, we're still having to look at that and see what's going to happen and go on. But like Big Bill said, later on there. We are working on that. But as far as live shows and our live nightly chats, now we're here to stay. That's for sure. We don't have any problems because our standalone software that we're using now.
Yeah, that's not G Plus though. That's not even going away, even if you were on Hangouts. We're actually having more activity in our Facebook community than we are in the G Plus community by a pretty big margin these days. I don't love Facebook either, but if you're a model railroader, that's where the activity is, as far as social media networks. And there's forums like MRH's forum and others that there's a lot of stuff going on. But the activity on Facebook, I mean, every time I go to Facebook, and I'm a member of 70 or 80, 90 model railroading related groups. Every time I open up, if I open up Facebook once a day, there will be 200 new notifications of cool model railroading stuff that's going on in my Facebook.
All right, well, we done hit the hour 12 minute mark. So this may be good to continue this on next Thursday night.
I'll be away for the next 2 weeks.
We don't want to hear it.
So that's your point?
Whenever you want me, just let me know.
Huh?
No problem. Whenever you want me to drop by, just let me know.
Yeah, we know you're going on another cruise.
So right at the end of the show, he decides to stir it up controversial and then go out of country. So he can't.
And then leave. Yeah.
I need a break from you guys.
So now we have a nickname for you. Pardon the phrase, but shit disturber.
Oh, there's a few of those here too.
I'll put my 50 cents in the jar for saying that, but that's okay.
Several of us like to stir it quite often.
Well, that's like I've said before. It's not about being confrontational. If somebody listening to our show wants an opinion on whether to use wood bench worker styrofoam or this type of paint or this other type of paint or flex track versus headlight, two people who agree in their opinions one way or the other and are not going to change their minds, that's fine. Doesn't matter. If they will present their two opinions with respect but passionately defend their positions, then anybody listening gets to hear the best position, the best foot forward of why to headlight aircraft, why to use flex track, why to use styrofoam, or why to use oil or acrylic.
And get more than one opinion.
That's exactly it. When neither of us are changing our minds about this, I'm still styrofoam, he's still wood. That's not the problem. But other people get to hear the best argument that either of us can make.
They can get the pros and cons of using all.
That's right. That's right.
All right, Big Bill said the new international headquarters of the YTMB will be opening soon to address all those concerns. So.
Oh yeah, he's gotta let us know when the ribbon cutting ceremony is.
Yeah. All righty. With that said, we're into hour 15 now. So, with that said, we'll close this one out. Don't forget October the 30th. Who's Big Bill talking to? He's going to have Barry Rozier. They used to do the Saturday night live show with Bill. And his sidekick, Mike D. They're going to be doing the clinics at the Amherst starting this year, next year in January. So they're going to come on and talk about that. That'll be pretty good. Bill said, nah, living room. And then November, to give you a heads up, November the 13th will be the Fine Scale Show. And November the 21st will be Joe's Train Room. Whoa, about to have an old age moment there. But, yeah, and we're also got a couple other things that we're working on that may, hopefully we can bring them in November to finish out the year, start out a new year with something new for you guys. And we're see what we can do with that. Anybody has suggestions, be sure to let us know. You can go to YouTubeMallBuilders.com. There you'll find the emails for me, Big Bill, Andy, whoever you want to send the email to for a show recommendation. Be glad to hear about it. And so with that said, have a good weekend. Be safe. Stay off the tracks. We'll see y'all next week.